All right, number 6. Sally and her brother, although they were usually blank at school, were absolute monsters at home, continually blanking with each other and wreaking havoc all over the house. So we have great triggers here. We have although, so we know that the two parts are different. So they're usually blank at school, but they're monsters at home, which I love calling people. And now we know that they're usually probably ideal model students at school. So this is really positive and good and happy. And then the second blank, it says there are monsters at home, continually blanking with each other and wreaking havoc all over the house. So even if you don't know what wreaking havoc means, if they're monsters, then it's going to be something negative having to do with fighting probably, or bickering like we had in the last question. So going through the second blank first, arguing definitely works with fighting and negative, so that gets a check. Remonstrating, might not know what that means. Competing, maybe. Competing could be good, competing could be bad, but we're going to leave it in. Tricking, so they're continually tricking with each other. It doesn't really fit, and tricking could have a positive meaning like kidding around. And in the context of this sentence, you can't really trick with each other. So that doesn't really make sense. Then we have squabbling, which you might not know as well. So now we get to the first blank, angelic. Clearly that would be the exact opposite of what a monster is and goes along with our good, happy thing. So that gets a check. Then for letter C, haughty. You might not know what that means, so that gets a question mark. And B is clever. So clever, even though it's good, it's not the opposite of being a monster at home, like causing problems. So this is actually out. And then A is barbaric. So barbaric is the adjective form of barbarian. And that, as we know, is definitely not going to be positive and not going to be the opposite of a monster. So we're down to 2. We have a question mark and a check and a question mark. So at this point, we want to read the sentence with each of the words in it. So if we read C, it says, Sally and her brother, although they were usually haughty at school, were absolute monsters at home, continually competing with each other and wreaking havoc all over the house. So first of all, this is a mystery. There's not really much in it that's giving us a clue to its roots. But as we said, competing could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. So this is like a weak positive and a mystery that we really don't have any idea about. If we look at E, Sally and her brother, although they were usually angelic at school, were absolute monsters at home, continually squabbling with each other and wreaking havoc all over the house. So squawking, squaw, those are not very positive words. So if we know that this is a really strong positive, and this has sort of the tonality of sounding bad, so if you have a really positive word like angelic, and then a word that just sounds negative with its tonality like squabbling, that's probably going to be a better bet than something like haughty, which doesn't really give you anything in the way of a root or a tonality, and competing, which is just a mildly positive word. So if you're ever unsure, really do some analysis before making just a blanket guess.